that's a triple play. New episodes, I couldn't wait. Yeah, open your mind at the first gate. Press play, no need to debate. AOA, check me out. Look, plugged in, you can catch the hype. Golden Dawn, how we follow the light. Anime like life, married to it, my wife.
What is going on, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, people of all ages? Welcome back to the AOA show. I'm your host, as always, Ian, along with the boy Isaiah.
Yo, yo, yo.
And Haikyuu Season 4, for us, has finally come to an end. Which means, I know, it's bittersweet, but it means that we have to review it now. And we want to review it because it was really damn good, and hopefully you guys are, hyped to listen to our laid-back podcast-style thoughts. You know what I mean? Like, when you get into the reactions sometimes, it's like you're focused on trying to not miss things, but you're also trying to make sure your energy's up, you know what I mean, just in general, because you don't want to just sit there and be, like a bored the whole time as well. And when we get to talk like this, it really lets us just take a second to step back and reflect on all the things that we saw in the season and go over, what we really liked, what we really didn't, etc. So that's what we're going to do today. Shit, man, hopping right into it, I would say that this season, I'm just going to come right out the gate and say it, I think this was my favorite season yet. It was probably a strong contender between this season, season 4, and season 2, I would say would be the other one. They were probably my favorite seasons, and for different reasons. But there was something for this season, just the new change of pace with the new studio and all that kind of stuff was like, it just, it kind of took us out of what some might consider a little bit of stagnation, you know what I mean, with the same studio and them going through and doing all that kind of stuff. So it added a new look and a new appeal to it, a new aesthetic, which was cool. But also, I just love the amount of growth that Hinata has this season, along with all the other, cast and part of the team. It was just something fantastic. And like the latter half of the season with Inarizaki was, we've said it before, but I think I speak for both of us when I say that was the best game yet. That was the best game we've seen in Haikyuu yet. And what is Haikyuu? How good is Haikyuu, if not as good as the games that they show, right? So it's like, if you know what I mean, it'd be kind of weird for me to be like, that was my favorite game. It spanned like 8 to 10 episodes, and then be like, yeah, I didn't like this season as much, So I really liked it a lot. I thought it was very good. There were some fantastic things about it. I don't know if you had what your initial impressions were, or if you rank this season anywhere, out of the 4 we've currently seen so far, and why. Curious to hear your thoughts on this one.
Yeah, I definitely agree that this is probably, season 4 is probably my number 1 favorite. I think I would also actually put season 2 as my second favorite. I don't know. It's funny because the more people I've talked to, season 3 kind of seems to be the number 1 for most people, at least that I've talked to. So that's just one pool, but like people that seem to like moments in season 4 and like a lot of interactions and maybe like just this game. But I just kind of love like the whole season. I like there's obviously the game with Inarizaki, which was dope. I feel like this game was like nothing but show, and like not like the game with Shiro Torizawa and Seijo, they all had like really great moments and some really beautifully animated shots and just great like scene choreography and stuff. But something about this game just felt like the game that I would tune in to watch on TV, because it was just so like action packed and like intense from the first whistle blow to the last. Like I don't know, this match had me on the edge of my seat, but like not more than most of these matches, just because I was so genuinely invested the whole time. And like I don't know, and I also really genuinely fuck with the new animation. I think it's a nice change of pace, like you said. Kind of breaks up a little bit of the monotony of like the show looking too similar to the other seasons, which like isn't necessarily bad, but again, that's something that I've heard a lot of people complain about, is that they really super cool on the animation, or at least at first. I know some people it's growing on, but I was kind of like about it from the jump. Like took an episode to get used to, but I don't know, I liked it more. But yeah, I definitely really love this season. I really love this game, and the opposing team, which is something that a place I haven't really been in with past seasons and past games. Like, there's players on Seijo that I liked, and there's players on Shiro Torizawa that I like, but just as a unit, as a collective team, I really mess with Inarizaki.
Mm. Yeah, man, I really like that team a lot, and that definitely added to the appeal for their game. Not just that it was a good game, it was that I was genuinely invested in that other team. Yeah, I mean, starting from the rip, though, I mean, on this season, I just, for starters, I mean, I always love a good training arc, and I feel like season 2, which is probably why I feel like they follow a somewhat similar pattern in the sense that there's a lot of training and things like that. Not that there isn't in season 1 and all that, but there was just a new level of it, and it was this rhythm we go in where we get to see them work on things and understand that they still have so much further to go, and then it all comes out to play, no pun intended, when the game starts, right? Like that's when it just shows all the fruits of their labor, and like that new thing they learned and understanding other players and all that kind of jazz, right? Like, I really liked the idea of Kageyama going to the youth camp, and I love the idea of Hinata, as the ball boy for their little clinic that they did. Just really helped them grow in droves, especially Hinata, because that was just the sleeper training regimen that apparently we always needed, because Hinata is like a sponge. I've said it before, but like the thing with him is he has to be put in the right scenario to learn it. You know what I mean? Like he had to learn the fundamentals of volleyball, really, from like kind of from the ground up, which, it was so interesting to see, because his athleticism in a sense gave him so many advantages, but in a way it almost gave him disadvantages as well if he never took a step back to learn the basics and the fundamentals, right? Because he jumps into the game and he's already like semi-decent. He could do the quick, and but he can't receive or serve or anything like that, right? So like him going to that was a big deal, and I really love to see it. And I love to see Kageyama, like I said, at the youth camp. I really like Fuki, the Olympic coach, who is just a genuine cool guy in all things considered, and had some great things to say. And it was like I really liked the introduction of some of these big star players that we're going to see, right? These are all the kids that are there, and then it just gives them a little bit more, we get a little bit more insight into them before we probably verse them later in the future. And I just thought that was cool how they introduced them, and how Kageyama handled that, and the bounce back between those two, and being able to see a lot of the other players that were normally playing against, but to be able to see them all playing together in a sense, you know what I mean, was really cool. Like we're all on the same side for this, like, sharing a passion for the game. We all want to get better, etc. So it was cool to see that sort of thing. And I just, that was something that I really enjoyed in the former half of the season. And then I mean the game with Date Tech was that was a good game. You know what I mean? There was a lot of like drama that went on there between Kageyama and Nishinoya, who they left us on that cliffhanger, but then Noya handled it like a champ, and like his whole team came around him, and that was really cool to see. But yeah, the just talking about the former half of the season right now, I really loved the training and everything that went into making these players better for when it counted.
Absolutely, yeah, I completely agree. I think a lot, obviously, our returning cast. We're talking about Katasuno. I wouldn't say, when I say, yeah, returning cast for the season, like most of Inazari, actually pretty much the entire team are all new players. Like we kind of meet Atsumo at like the youth training camp, so he's not like, he's the one that we kind of know the most, but even then we don't really know a lot about him. But specifically, at least for me, some of the really standout new characters that I love this season. Obviously you have Korai, who's I believe, he's the wing spiker. I'm actually not 100% on his position. Hold on, let me look it up real quick, because I have the outside hitter. That's what it is. And the ace of his team, which definitely tracks. I mean, from what we saw, the like little snippets of the matches he was in, pretty much 1v6. At least that's how it felt. The teams that he played against. So, like, he's definitely, and Little Giant, which is interesting for obvious reasons, because he's definitely like this, weird kind of parallel to Hinata in a sense, right? I mean, the size, stature, and but he doesn't the take he has on it. We recorded a tier list. I'm not necessarily sure if this is going to come out before or after that, but regardless, in that I was talking about like his philosophy is one of the things I like about him. It's good for him to just have as a person who is this height and probably and obviously faces the same stigma that Hinata does, but it was good because Hinata was there when he's talking about it, so it was like good for Hinata to hear what he had to say. Which is more or less like if I'm, my size doesn't matter. My size should not attribute to how good or valuable I am to this team as a player, right? If I win, it's because I trained. It's because I'm good at the game and I know what I'm doing. If I lose, it's because I didn't practice enough, or I wasn't trying hard enough. Which is really cool. And it's really nice. And it's cool to see somebody with that level of intensity. Basically, it's like, it's nice to see that in a way, like a version of Hinata that isn't Hinata exist in this world's volleyball, right? In their, in their leagues, in their tournament. Because, Hinata is such a, with his sort of like weird, highly natural athleticism and stuff, it's easy to, forget, or rather it's easy to be reminded that he's kind of like he's an incredibly odd case, right? There's not a lot of Hinatas just running around playing volleyball. It's sometimes it can be, I would imagine, at least for Hinata, like a little lonely, right? Where it's like there's not many players that are like going through the exact trials and tribulations he is, and his are specific to him. That it's nice to meet somebody that's like, no, I get what you're going through. Even, and it seems like they, when they meet, they sort of immediately hit it off like as rivals, which is cool. And then the second character that's new this season is Koana. Oh man, I'm just fucking up all these names.
What team?
Kanoka.
Oh, Kanoka.
From Nima.
Yeah.
I absolutely love this chick. She this was kind of the same vibe that I got from some of the side players from Katasuno. Whereas like here's this character that gets introduced, and I'm expecting this to be like okay, here's this cute new character we're gonna meet for like an episode 2, and she'll have some like kind of cool cute like neat interaction, and then we'll be on our way, right? We're at national to win. But she's she has 2 episodes I believe that she kind of takes the main center stage of, and in those 2 episodes, like I was fully invested in her as a character, and not her dude, but to be honest, I was invested in the relationship that she at least wanted with Tanaka, to the point where I was like, Tanaka, listen man, like I'm in the club too, I get it, I know that we signed up to be by Goddess Kyoko's side, but like as a brother, as a man to man here, like if you got a shot, I feel obligated to be like, bro, like I think you gotta go. No hard feelings. Like Noi and I got it. We'll run the court, but like you gotta go. You just gotta see the world, man. You gotta go out there and like, she's just so freaking cool, dude. I absolutely love this chick. I love how dedicated and hard she went in on volleyball, specifically because of the inspiration that she got from Tanaka. And once again, we talked about this a little bit in our tier list video, and I'm sure we'll brush up on it once we get to Katasuno, but Tanaka is definitely getting MVP for this season and for the match that they have with Inarizaki, just because of his innate ability to sort of persevere through, the literal, when the odds are stacked against him in the most literal sense, and this ability to inspire and make the average ordinary player or even just person feel special and feel unique. That's not a common skill, and that's something that takes a lot of work and sort of I would say emotional honesty to be able to pull off, and he does it. He makes it look easy, incredibly easy, so much so that it inspired Kanoka to pursue volleyball. And then even so, once they have their sort of penultimate moment where she expresses her feelings for him, and he unfortunately turns her down, she's kind of like, did I just get my heart broken? And he's like, all right, anyway, back to training. Like I got it. Message is clear. I just have to train even more, become even more of a badass. Like, yes, oh, I'm so with this chick. I love her. Absolutely.
Yeah, she was fantastic. And I think, in what you were saying there, one of the big standouts as to why this season was so good, in my personal opinion, one of the many reasons is because of the introduction of all these amazing new characters, right? That is something that Haikyuu does, is that we gravitate towards so many different characters from so many different teams for various different reasons, and it's always amazing when we get to see them. And in season 1 we were introduced to the players that we have to pay attention to, obviously Hinata and Kageyama. We met Nekuma, so we have players like Kenma and things like that. And then in season 2, they introduced quite a few new characters, and that was always a treat to see. Season 3, they did it as well, and then season 4, they just really blew it off the top now, because now all the players that they're introducing, for the most part, are national level. So that's why it's like, obviously these players are good for different reasons, and they're all likable and all things like that. But it was really cool to see a lot of these new players, and I feel like the one that we have to talk about, as the transition here and then into the game itself, is Atsumu. The one Maya twin. This guy's a character, man. I have to say, again, Isaiah was saying, I don't know what's going to come out, our tier list or this first, but this is a dude that has charisma. I'm gonna just come out and say it. There's something about it that's like intangible. You can't explain it. And at least for me, it made me, at first, I was like, I don't know how I feel about this guy. He's like kind of mysterious. He could be a jerk. But by the end of the season, he was my favorite antagonist that we had. And that doesn't mean that I liked all of the bad things about him, obviously. But I couldn't deny that there was some sort of charisma with this character that I gravitated towards and liked watching him play, and liked watching him play against Karasuno and be able to nail these quicks with his twin, Asumu, things like that. There was just something about it that was really cool to watch. And I actually found myself getting excited when they would make really good plays at times. And I'm like, okay, that means that I'm like, I probably, whether I want to admit it or not, like I either like this character or I like this team or I like both, right? And so it's like kind of this guilty pleasure that I can't really explain, but he really made an impression on me. And like I said, I think he, if you're going to frame Oikawa as the antagonist of maybe like season 1 and 2, you have Ushijima or Tendo, depending for their antagonists of season 3, 100% Atsumu, and I guess you could incorporate his twin as well, Asumu as well, as the antagonist here. And I really think that he just like stole the show with his part. He was just really awesome to watch.
Yeah, I completely agree. Once again, in terms of antagonist, I think the Maya twins and specifically Atsumu are fantastic villains. They're such a powerful obstacle and force for Karasuno and you could say specifically Hinata and Kageyama to have to like overcome and get defeat. But at the same time, they're not villains that are so cruel, just unlikable, that like I totally get why people just don't like these. For anybody who doesn't, I totally get why you don't, because I can't even really say that I like them 100% myself, but they do have a charm, charisma that I don't know, even like you were saying, it's kind of difficult to describe, whether just their confidence on the court, whether it comes from their placency in their own abilities. Like they know what they're about. They know, from the second they get on the court, it's like incredibly 100% clear that they're in their element and they're doing almost what it feels like they were born to do. And I just watching that, it's in a weird way, it is, what it is also, I think, to be honest, the twin element is what helps them. I think because it ends up feeling like this weird mirrored version in a lot of ways, Hinata and Kageyama. So I think, at least for me, in the back of your mind, you kind of like, I identified with that and I was like, oh, okay, here's the reverse, like the what if almost, or like the, what another version of this freak duo, quote unquote, looks like or would have looked like. So it comes off a little bit, I guess it's like better to take on, conceptually, than if it's like just this one guy like Ushiji can just do everything by himself, or Okawa who's the best on the team, hands that, like, I don't know, something about that the camaraderie there, even with the brothers, even if again like Atsuma is kind of tagged as like, I don't know, I don't even know if I would say the better brother, but he's just like the more passionate one, whatever. He's the more main brother. But something about the duo, right? Something about that pairing I think works better because it's a little bit more believable in my mind as far as they have working together, because again, volleyball, you can train as hard as you want and you can be the best individual player you are, but you don't win games by yourself. This isn't a solo sport. So it's like, part of me is like, okay, these players who are just like these tanks, these like one man, armies that just like score all the points by themselves and do everything. I don't know, that gets a little like boring for me to watch, and it gets a little bit like repetitive, and it's like, okay, I get it. We're just, everybody get out the way, like, and just clear, put the traffic cones down, clear a path for Ushijima so he can run up and peg this ball into the concrete. But like, something about this, like, no, Atsuma, get it up so that, Osamu can hit, like, I don't know, something about that, the coordination, the teamwork, the synergy. That's the kind of stuff that I love about volleyball. It's the kind of stuff I love about Haikyuu specifically, because it's so cool getting to see players, in sync. Obviously, you have Hinata and Kageyama, who are this weird connective duo from the start, but really anytime we get to see two players like link up and like get in the same headspace and be like, oh, okay, yeah, I know I was doing this so that you could get up here and spike this, and like, it's so cool. So like, I'm hitting my mic all the time, but it's really cool to see like these two work together even as the villain, which I find more enjoyable.
Yeah, totally agree there. I think his brother definitely helps him. There were some other standout characters on this team as well. I know one that I really liked was Shinsuke Kaida. He was really cool. Iran was cool. I liked him a lot. And Rintaro was someone who was interesting. I don't know if I'd say that I like him, but he definitely was interesting. He was breaking physics. He was doing all this kind of thing, and he was really one of the, he was one of the scarier players on that team. I mean, they had a lot of scary players. The Twins are obviously set up to be the worst of it. But if I had to choose, I mean, Rintaro and Aaron have like, a close contention there, but for different reasons. He was really interesting and like this weird counter to Suki in a way, but then you find out that Suki kind of had him played the whole time. Suki was just more in tune with what he was and wasn't capable of. So like Rintaro beats him per se, but like Suki understands that going in. So he's like, okay, but it's not just me. You know what I mean?
It's like he already knew he was going to beat him, so he made a plan for if he'd lose, which like ultimately helps him win. Yeah,
right, because it's a team sport at the end of the day, right? So like that's the whole thing with it. But we had some really cool backstories and stuff like that. I really liked how Shinsuke as a captain was on the sidelines for the majority of it and his whole backstory. I mean, we've gone into that. But it was really cool to see how he wrangled this team together. I loved too the great thing, one of the amazing things about this game as well, besides it being on the national level and these likable or unlikable characters, was also this like meta game within the game of the bands and the cheer squads or whatever you want to call them, right? Like the audience was something that we had not seen before on this level. We've seen people cheer, and we've always made our comments about like, man, Karasuno needs like the cheer squad, right? Like what the heck's going on around here? But this really reached a whole new level for both sides, with a literal like marching band or a band and cheerleaders, and you know what I mean? Like calling people out by, an orchestra, calling people out by name. And then we had Karasuno and with Seiko coming in clutch, and with the drum and all that kind of stuff was just something that really added a whole new element to it that I loved, and made it awesome. Also the stadium itself, being that it was tougher to play in, was something that was interesting too. So adding all these like new elements that we have not seen before kind of broke up a little bit of the potential redundancy that the show might suffer from, being that it is a show strictly about volleyball, right? So like there's only so many games you could have that go the same, and like clutch moments, because like we know Karasuno to an extent has to win, right? At least in the beginning, unless they do a weird ending. So like there is an air of predictability, and so what you tend to enjoy is how we get there, right? The process. And so what can happen sometimes with shows like that is if they don't do something different enough, which sometimes that could be hard if you're playing at a high school gymnasium, this seems to be like we're a little stagnant. But going to nationals, having this arena, having to work around the your space and all that kind of stuff, and then the audience at the end there, and this team in Arizaki really just added a whole new level of what Haikyuu's capable of, and it was really, really awesome to see. I really loved it, and I loved I just loved every character that took part in it, whether in the game or out of the game. Their commentary, you know, I love the games of Nekoma as well. Kenma had some great moments to shine here, as well as Yamamoto, which was funny because, you know, we said it in our tier list. I really didn't see that coming. Kind of came out of left field that like he had so much highlighted on him, but I mean they're part of the same team, right? That's what they do. But it was really cool. There were just, it was able to highlight the best parts of a lot of these characters, and on such a grand stage, it really was cool to see and got me really excited for you know, for future events. You know, I gotta you know, toss it out to the third years too. You know, Daichi and Asahi Suga. Those scenes just warm my heart like every time that I see them, because there's just a whole different level, man, of like, you know, them working as hard as they could to get to where they are now and taking that chance now, you know, now that they have it, their old captains being there and, you know, kind of spurring them on and crying about it because they're like, you, when this chance comes, you better take it. And like just seeing them here now was something that was really cool. We're really, a lot of our hard work is really paying off. You know, the growth was just so substantial, and you know, I just love to see it play itself out, you know.
Yeah, it's really dope. There's this season is like literally jam packed with character, you know, moments, character development. Just so many, like you were saying before, so many great payoff moments from relationships and things that we've had built up and established throughout the last 3 seasons. I mean, you know, there's the moment with Noya where he sort of like has to get over this fear, so to speak, that gets crept up into him from Atsumu serves, and he has Inoshita, I believe is his name, like help him out with that, which is like a really warm and nice touching moment. There's one of my favorite moments, the moment with Yama, where he's like going through his serve, and like his whole sort of mental coping strategy gets interrupted, you know, in the middle of his serve, and he starts to like lose his mind a little bit in panic, and his real actual dad comes in, and you know, neighborhood sama and just like, you know, comes in clutch for him. He comes with the bag that has the picture that he told him to visualize. That scene broke me. I literally cried like a small child. And there's so many scenes, like you were saying before with Nekoma, getting the emotional backstory of like Kenma and Yamamoto's different philosophy, then watching them sort of blend and learn to work together as a team was really cool. And even seeing, like, you know, again, the fact that like Kenma is not your traditional, well, or I'll say he's not the average Haikyuu volleyball player, not like sweating for the game, but he is living, breathing, and sweating for the team, for the players on his team. You know, they're his friends, and he's willing to go that extra mile each and every time for them, despite the effort that it makes him put in, which he does not like doing. I love that shit. I mean, saying a little, do feel like it bears a little bit of repeating. This is Hinata season. The amount of growth and development that specifically Hinata goes through, I think is one of my favorite. I like, because, you know, we were saying, in, you know, it's been said before, Hinata, you know, is not a traditional, or hasn't been a traditional volleyball player in terms of at least his knowledge, you know, statistics, things he can know and things he can learn and improve upon. Because he hasn't really known what to do, or how to do a lot of things, I should say, other than rely on his instincts, right? And rely on his gut reactions. But this season does a beautiful job of not only teaching him how to learn to play volleyball and teaching him how to watch, but also teaching him how to teach other people and teaching him how to inspire other people. I've said it before. It's my go-to for this season. Teaches Hinata how to control. It's something that this show thematically touches on a lot, because there was a lot of, you know, mental, psychological elements that this show brushes up on in terms of like how this sport is played that has nothing to do with the physicality of it, that I actually really like. And the more they delved into it more, it made me realize, like, wow, you could really like mess a team up before you even get the first serve in, and like you could win a game, you know what I mean, without even talking to them, essentially. But one of the major components is that rhythm, right? Whether it's, you know, one team just getting a string of serves and points, play after play, and the other team just not being able to pick up the ball. Whether it's like, you know, the team sort of hones in and targets on one player, you know, to sort of like really break their, you know, their mental state down and get them really depressed or discouraged. But it doesn't matter, at least in terms of Karasuno, because Hinata has this ability to sort of redirect that rhythm, right? Anytime his team is like winning or scoring a lot of points, he kind of can work with the team to foster up that, that high morale and that positivity and like sort of keep the engine going. And anytime they are getting depressed or they're on the opposite end of that, he has the, this vibe and this energy about him to sort of instantly like shoot everybody out of their funk and be like, all right, guys. I mean, like that scene when they lose that sort of wrestle point and everybody is just down on their luck and, they're given that sort of like depressed energy and vibe. And Hinata's like, yo, guys, did you see that receive I just did? That was insane. Like, watch me do it again. And it's like everybody's laughing. You can't help but feel good being around Hinata, because the metaphor they make in the show, which I absolutely love, it's actually the Maya twins who pick up on it. Watching Hinata play volleyball is like watching somebody who's like really hungry eat a good meal, right? You just can't help but get hungry too. You can't help but be like, damn, that food, that must be really good. Like, let me get a plate of that. What you got over? You know what I mean? Because it's like, it is so. Watch Hinata, somebody who arguably may love volleyball more. It hasn't really, be in his element, play this sport, and do the thing that I believe he's earned the right to do and participate and play in and excel at. It's so cool. It was really cool. I love that this season finally puts Hinata, I forget his name, but old, Nagi, raisin coach from Shiratorizawa, says, something along the lines of like, at the beginning of this, he's like, yeah, I'll let you join the camp, Hinata, but only to prove that without Kageyama, you're nothing on your own. And I think this season thoroughly proves that Hinata is a force to be reckoned with or without Kageyama.
100%, man. Yeah, I thought Hinata's growth was, to mirror what you said, one of the standout parts of this season. It was fantastic. Some amazing moments. My favorite was when he kind of reversed Uno card them with the, when they lost that point that he got the receive, and then he just lifts the whole team up, like you said, and they use the food analogy. That was one of the best moments for me. I think if I had to say, my favorite moment of this season, man, there were so many good ones if I had to choose. And I think it had to have been Tanaka's internal monologue that he had with that episode. I mean, it doesn't come as much as a surprise because Tanaka is my favorite character in the show, but the imagery that Haikyuu uses, they excel so much with their imagery in the show, and it was just so emotional to see Tanaka climbing that seemingly endless staircase to then only be stopped because there are no more stairs to climb, right? And it's just a mountain in front of him that seems just insurmountable. But seeing him be able to work through that, and in spite of himself being a little, depressed, having his team there, obviously, but just having such mental fortitude and come out on the other side of that victorious after just getting blocked and all that kind of stuff, and then pulling other people up in the process while doing it, and making all of them feel that they got a mental boost just from seeing Tanaka be able to handle it, that was a part where I was like, I was super close to crying on that part. That was the closest I got to crying this season, 100%. That was super emotional. Probably shed a tear or two on that one. That was some crazy stuff to see, and it was just like, it highlighted what makes this character so lovable for me, and just this team surrounding him and everything. It was a really great moment for me, and it really just highlighted an important lesson in that just because someone is perceived to be the happiest person in the room does not necessarily mean they are. And I mean, now to be fair, Tanaka, I would actually argue maybe genuinely is the happiest person in the room. It's not like Tanaka struggles with depression to the 10th degree. Yeah, it's not like long form where he's constantly battling it, which can happen, but that's not his case. But the point still stands that, in Tanaka's monologue, he goes over the fact that, he says, listen, it happens roughly once every 6 months or something like that, where my confidence just plummets and I just get depressed. And that too can happen and is equally as important to address and to work with, because, the point is that if his emotions can dip that low, that means that, hopefully it never happens, but he could stay there, at some point. But the thing about Tanaka is, that it's going to be really tough for that to happen. But it was still an interesting lesson nonetheless, and I think one that is important, that even the strongest people, there are times, even if it's not all the time, but there are times where they can hit low points, you know. So it was nice to see. It was nice to see that touch of realism, you know, injected into his character and made him very human. You know, it was really cool for me to see, but that was probably one of my standout parts. But yeah, man, I mean, that's I don't know if there's anything else that you want to bring up, Isaiah, specifically, any scenes, characters, whatever. I mean, I think I've said what I had to say personally about the season. I loved it. It was my favorite one yet. You know, this season to me was like a 10 out of 10 for sure. Like I said, you know, love, in conclusion here, love the characters, love the growth, love the games. And I feel like and love the lessons taught. And I feel like those 4 elements are what make Haikyuu so special to begin with, in my opinion. So it really just showed the pinnacle of Haikyuu. But the great thing is I think it's going to get even better once we keep on going, because we're going to get this game against Nekoma, which is going to be awesome to see on the national stage, and then obviously the finals and all that kind of stuff. I couldn't be more excited.
Yeah, no, I am definitely excited, you know, very excited for the future. You know, they set up, like you said, they set up this game with Nekoma, which is going to absolutely hurt my feelings in the most brutal way possible. I've actually decided to split my body in half so that I can root for both Nekoma and Karasuno, because I'm emotionally, I'm not equipped to just pick one over the other. So that'll be fun. I'm looking forward to that. And then, like, yeah, I mean, like you said, like nationals, that'll be, you know, I believe, if I'm, you know, I could have this 100% wrong in my head, but like something like the second to the final match of nationals, or maybe like that. But we're getting close to the finals, you know, eventually. You know, I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that win, or at least make it to finals. So you know, that'll be fun to look forward to, as well as who else made it to that. You know, I just, you know, the thing I get in my head every time I watch a great match, and you know, I thought about this in previous seasons, and this one I think is the best. Like I've said, the best match, you know, that the show has to offer. The show is only going to top it, right? If this was the best match, the show is now, the next match we get, it's going to be even better, and we know it is because it's against Nekoma, but like that match is going to be even better, you know, in all aspects than this match with Inarizaki, which is, you know, season 5 win. That's all I got to say. That's all.
Well said, my friend. Anyway, folks, that's going to do it for our Haikyuu Season 4 review. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. If you did, make sure you guys are dropping a like on this video, subscribing to the channel, hitting the bell if you're new here, and commenting your thoughts down below. What did you think of this season of Haikyuu? What were some standout moments for you, your favorite characters in the season, our thoughts on it, all that kind of stuff. We're curious to get the conversation going with you guys. Also refer to our description down below if you want to support us even further. We have our Linktree link there. It'll bring you to all the ways you can support us with the AOA Reacts channel, our reaction channel, if you want to catch all of our Haikyuu live reactions. We also have our social media there, our Discord, which is totally free to join, and our Patreon as well if you want exclusive benefits to the show while also supporting us. It's really a win-win, so you definitely want to go check that out if you want to support us and you want unfiltered, unedited access to our Haikyuu live reactions, which is kind of a big one that a lot of the Haikyuu fans have been jumping on board for. So if that sounds like something that would interest you, definitely head on over and check it out. But anyway, folks, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time, we'll catch you on the flip. Peace.
Peace out.
Don't disobey, then you get judged by apostles.